Okay, good day and welcome to our online learning channel. This is our lesson 9 for our term 2. We are looking at word level work and we are specifically looking at verbs, finis and infinitives, and suffixes. Our objectives for this lesson: by the end of the lesson, you should be able to define verbs with examples, differentiate between finite and infinite verbs. Those are our objectives for this lesson. Right, let's look at what verbs are. What is a verb? I think that is the most common question you can still remember ringing in your mind from your primary school level. What is a verb? Right, it is a word that conveys an action. And to simplify things, we can say it is a doing word in a sentence. Right, if you are to figure out the correct part of speech, if you are asked to find out if it's a verb, ask the following question. The question which you ask to test if it is a verb. The question is, can you? Examples of verbs I have there: can you jump, cry, sing, sleep, walk, etc. Those are our examples for verbs, and refreshing our minds on what verbs are. Right now, we zoom into looking at finite verbs. What is a finite verb? It is a verb that can stand on its own without an auxiliary verb. An auxiliary verb is also known as a helping verb. It helps maybe to maintain the tense, etc. So that is an auxiliary verb, a helping verb. This type of a verb, a finite verb, can stand on its own without the help of an auxiliary verb. Right, let's look at it further. A finite verb must have the following. A, tense. It must tell us when. Is it the past or the present tense? Is it the past or the present tense? Right. B, it must give us the number. Is it singular or plural? Singular or plural. And it can have subject, which has to do with who or what. The finite verb must have those which I've just highlighted. And please note, it is said that a finite verb makes a sentence. What it simply means is that without a finite verb, you cannot have a sentence which can stand on its own and make sense. Therefore, a finite verb is a drive behind the sentence making sense. Let's look at an example there of a finite verb showing us the past tense. They played soccer. Finite verb being played, telling us that it is in the past. Number 2, he plays soccer. The finite verb now is showing us the number being singular. Hence, plays shows us John is singular or he is singular. Number 3, the girl sings soprano. The girl sings soprano. Sings there being our verb, showing us the subject, who is the girl, is the one who is singing. So note the verb makes a sentence, and it should tell us past, number, and even indicate to us the subject. Right, finite verbs are usually used in simple present tense and simple past tense. In the simple present tense, I write the test. Write is in the present tense, which is what I do today. Number 2, I wrote the test. Wrote being in the past tense, which shows us that has happened in the past, or you already did it yesterday. I wrote the test. Finite verbs are usually used in those tenses, the simple present and the simple past tense. Then we come to the infinite verb. What is an infinite verb? It is a verb that cannot stand on its own. It is always preceded by a finite verb and the word to. Before it always comes a finite verb and the word to. Let's look at an example of what we are talking about. For example, I want to play a guitar. I want to play a guitar. Want is our finite verb. Play, which is an infinite verb, comes after to. Therefore, I want to play a guitar. Want, which is a finite verb, and the word to, which precedes the infinite verb, all are indicated there. So we can see that an infinite verb cannot stand on its own. It will always be supported by the finite verb and the word to. Examples of finite verbs we have there: to sing, to jog, to run, to listen. The list is endless, of course, but we can see those are a few examples I have just cited to show you how a finite verb is always preceded by the word to. I want us now to look at the difference between finite and non-finite verbs. We will go through the table carefully so that we are able to note the differences. On our left, we have finite verbs, and on the other side, we have non-finite verbs. Right, the first example there, the first point there says a finite verb acts as a verb. They got home very late. On the other hand, a non-finite verb does not act as a verb. Sailing is my favorite sport. Note there, sailing is not a verb in that part of the sentence. Example number 2. A finite verb acts as the main verb of the clause. It is the main verb of the clause. Example, I live in Germany. On the other hand, a non-finite verb acts as a noun, adjectives, adverbs, you name it. For example, the sleeping cat is brown. Which cat are we referring to? The sleeping one, which is now our adjective. So it is not, they are different, it's not the same as in the finite side. Infinite verb, finite verb on the next level, number 3 example, it indicates a person, number, and tense. We have already seen that previously. For example, she was waiting in the room before he came in. Non-finite verbs do not indicate person, number, and tense. That's what they do not do. She tiptoed round the house so as not to wake anyone. Next example, finite verbs are used in present tense and past tense. I have already highlighted that as well. You promised me the last ticket. Finite verbs are gerunds and participles. For example, I struggled to understand. And our last example, finite verbs appear in dependent and independent clauses. They appear in both dependent and independent clauses. Remember what we said previously in our lesson, a dependent clause will not stand on its own and make sense, but an independent clause will stand on its own and make sense. Dependent clause, which is also known as a subordinate clause, independent clause known as the main clause, right? And on the other hand, they appear in infinitival, participle, and gerund participle clause. That's where we see the non-finite verbs. Kids like to play on computers. That is our example there. Just go through the table again and acquaint yourselves with the differences between the finite and the non-finite verbs. Right, let's look now closely at finite verbs and suffixes. Finite verbs and suffixes. Remember from our previous lesson, a suffix is that which is attached to the root or the stem of the word after the main word, not before. What comes before is a prefix. What comes after the word is our suffix. Right. In present tense, we will have a sentence, I cry. I cry. Cry being our finite verb. Then when we attach our suffix ed to the word cry, the word will be cried. Then in past tense, we now have I cried. So note the suffix ed will now be attached to the finite verb to indicate now the past tense. I play. Suffix ed attached to play will give us played. Then in past tense, we'll have I played. I walk. We attach also our suffix ed, I walked. I like, suffix ed, I liked. So remember, the suffix ed can be attached to the finite verb to indicate the past tense. Those are the examples highlighted there. Then we have our suffix ing. Ing. It can be attached to the finite verb to form a participle. Forming a participle. In the present tense, I will say I cry. Present participle, I am crying. Cry plus the suffix ing, crying. I run. Then run plus ing equals running. I walk. Walk plus ing equals walking. I eat. Your eat plus an ing suffix will give you eating. So those are examples to indicate that our suffix ing can be attached to the finite verb to form a participle. Right, we have an activity there, an activity on verbs. Identify the verbs in the following sentences. Identify the verbs in the following sentences. I play the game always. Look at that sentence. What is the verb there? Is it a finite verb or an infinite verb? Pick out the verb and indicate so. Number 2, he was singing loudly. Pick up the verbs there. And like you did in number 1, say what type of a verb it is or what types of verbs they are. Number 3, she wants to sing. She wants to sing a song. Number 4, he refused to accept her apology. Number 5, I am eating bread. Number 6, he played soccer. That is our activity. Identify the verbs there. Is it a finite verb or an infinite verb? You indicate that quickly. Solution, we have them. Number 1, play is a finite verb. Number 2, singing is our participle. Number 3, to sing, an infinite verb. I'm sure we did identify the finite verb also in that sentence because it will always precede an infinite verb. Number 4, to accept, infinite verb. And obviously you will have identified your finite verb. Number 5, eating, present participle. And number 6, played, which is our past tense. Check your answers quickly. How did you fare? Did we move together? I hope so. Right, let's come to the conclusion of our lesson. What is key for us to remember? Finite verbs can stand on their own without auxiliary verbs or the word to. Infinite verbs are always preceded by finite verbs and the word to. Suffixes ed and ing form. Ing form participles ed will form a past tense. And obviously our final point is verbs are action words in a sentence. We cannot miss that. That brings us to the end of our lesson on verbs. From now till we meet again, it's good day to all.